Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan, and today I'm going to be overreacting to every single NHL team, all 32 NHL teams so far this season. Now we are more than a week into this season when we've already seen some teams do way better than others, the Buffalo Sabres compared to the Montreal Canadiens for instance, but I wanted to give my thoughts on every single NHL team and give my overreactions to the players, the teams, and what I've seen so far. But when it comes to your NHL team, what are my overreactions for them, my thoughts on them, and who do I see as the best and the worst teams right now in the NHL? Watch till the end for all of the overrated picks overreaction picks and all of the rankings, and make sure you hit that subscribe button if you are new. 60% of the people that are watching are not subscribed. If you like hockey, this channel is the place to be. Now we're going to go division by division in today's video. We're going to start out with the Carolina Hurricanes, a team that has been just extremely impressive so far at a 3-0-0 record. And for my first overreaction of the day, I got to say that Freddie Andersen has been absolutely magnificent. He's played in all 3 games and has been wonderful for the Canes. At a .938 save percentage, he has been saving the day with a plus 2.75 goals saved above expected as well, which right now is 7th in the entire NHL. But Andersen's played in all of the Carolina games, and he's been just brilliant in almost every single one. And he had some big health issues which were on over the past couple of years, obviously signing with the Canes in that big deal. So far, though, proving his worth and proving that he is the starter in Carolina once again and can still be a great NHL goaltender. Honestly, great for him considering how bad the health has been for him the past couple of years. Now we're going to move on to the Columbus Blue Jackets, another team that's been really impressive so far, getting 2 wins and I'm pretty sure an overtime loss just recently to the New York Islanders. One of my biggest takeaways, though, is that Patrick Laine has officially been brought back and is now fitting in Columbus pretty well. Over the last few games, he's played 4 and he's gotten 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points. Just got the OT winner against the Islanders as well. He's been terrific and has been one of the best play drivers on top of that goal scoring for Columbus, which is going to be huge throughout the year. But it seems like he's finally fitting in now that Tortorella is gone, and he might be a big part of this Blue Jackets franchise finally going forward. But now we're going to move on to the New Jersey Devils, another team that has been so fun to watch this year. Jack Hughes is going to have an amazing season this year. We're going to see big guys take their big steps. That defense look a lot better. That goaltending look a lot better, hopefully. This is really a fantastic year for New Jersey, man. I'm so freaking excited. But now we have to move on to a New York team here in the New York Islanders, a team that, quite frankly, has been a little bit disappointing so far, and I think a reason of that is the goaltending. And Elias Sorokin has started in all 4 games and has been quite bad compared to last year with a .901 save percentage. He's been okay at times, was okay in that Columbus game, but at the same time, I think the goaltending was such a big factor of the Islanders' success these past couple of years, especially last season, the regular season. And if the Islanders are going to be a true contender, a true playoff team, I think this year, the goaltending needs to step up, especially with how good that Metro is. The Islanders have some steep competition. Next up, though, we're going to move on to another New York team, a team that's also got off to a pretty good start in the New York Rangers, who just won against the Preds. I could say how good Igor Shesterkin is, and yes, that would be very, very true. But in my opinion, with what I've seen so far, Adam Fox might just be the best defenseman in the NHL right now, guys. Before this season, I would have had Makar number 1 and Fox number 2, but Fox has been even better at times from last year, and Cale Makar has taken a big step back, likely due to injury and not having his normal partner in Devon Taves. But at the same time, Fox is absolutely thriving and is looking like the best defenseman and the best American defenseman of all time. Brian Leetch is definitely fantastic and one of the elites of all time, but Adam Fox is looking generational as a defensive guy. But now we're going to go on to the last 3 teams in the Metro, and we're going to start out here with the Philadelphia Flyers, who have had one guy rising above the rest when it comes to points, and that is Joel Verity. And I've always been a big fan of Joel Verity, even going back to his draft, and I thought he was a great fit for the Flyers at that draft, and so far it has absolutely panned out. I mean, at age 21, this guy is leading this Flyers forward group, and has just been a fantastic, great clutch playmaker. Now, in 3 games played so far, he's gotten 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 points. By the way, there's some people doing work downstairs in my house, so keep that in mind. But 6 points in 3 games played for Verity after just a great season as well last year. But Verity's been a guy that's been a big part of this Flyers group for the past couple of seasons. Now we're going to go on to the Pittsburgh Penguins, who might be another underrated team, in my opinion, who without Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin have gotten points in every single game they played so far. They're at a 2-0-2 record, and with the depth they have, I mean, they're playing Evan Rodrigues at the first line center. That's the type of depth the Penguins are trying trying to work with, but are still finding ways to win, still finding ways to get points, and I think that'll be extremely important, especially once we see guys like Crosby come back. If they're getting points in every game without Crosby and Malkin, just imagine how good they'll be with those guys added on top of that. But now we're going to go on to the Washington Capitals, who have had their fair share as well of players rising to the occasion. Ovechkin's been fantastic, but one guy that stands out to me is Evgeny Kuznetsov, who hasn't really felt like a great fit on the Capitals the past couple of years, but after all the trade rumors and all the craziness, has come into the season just absolutely dominating and has been great for them. In 4 games played, he has 3 goals, 5 assists, 8 points, and is looking like prime Kuznetsov once again, which with how much skill Kuznetsov has always had, is great to see him get back to that, get him back to those 2018 and 2019 levels, and once again be an elite center the Capitals really need. Now we're going to move on to the Central Division, and the first team we're going to talk about here is the Arizona Coyotes, who are shockingly bad. No way. Nobody could have expected that. But one big part of it, I think, is the goaltending. Not their backup, who I haven't even heard of, but Carter Hutton, who's only played 2 games, but let's be honest, when it comes to Hutton, we all know he's going to continue this bad play, but it's just how bad he's been. That's the crazy thing. He's only played 2 games, but has a 7.02 save percentage. Now we're going to move on to the Chicago Blackhawks, a team with a lot of takeaways so far. We can talk about how bad Seth Jones has been, how sneakily bad Marc-Andre Fleury has been, though, as well on top of that defense. Really, it comes to the defensive goaltending. This team has looked like absolute frauds so far, and Jeremy Colliton, I think, has also a lot of blame on top of that, but also Stan Bowman, who shouldn't be in the NHL. He shouldn't be an NHL GM, and I don't know how the Blackhawks have not fired him yet after all of this, especially with Chicago. To be as bad as they are is almost poetic. I feel bad for Blackhawks fans having to go through all this, and then this team just stinking so far, but that defensive goaltending is looking just so rough, and this team just does not look good. If they have a coaching change, maybe it'll be different, but Colliton right now is just not the guy. Now, we were talking about Adam Fox earlier. Now we're going to move on to the Colorado Avalanche, and my overreaction for them so far is that Cale Makar has looked absolutely brutal. Now, I do want to preface this by saying I did predict him to win the Norris Trophy. Pretty much everybody did. With him not having it before, it seemed like he would obviously take still a pretty solid step still and be in that main contention. But he has been horrible so far. I don't like to really bring up plus minus, but it's been bad, and I think he only has 1 assist in the games he's played. But on the ice and in terms of how he's actually played, he looks injured, and it seems like he is. There was like one clip that showed him having like some bandages on his left arm, I believe, on his left wrist, so that definitely affects things, but he has not looked good without Devon Taves, who's also not playing with the Avs. So there's just been so many factors when it comes to injury, not having the same line mates, and just the Avalanche not looking as good without Nathan McKinnon, all the other guys usually there, as they have been full season. That's also affected things, but Cale Makar has just looked awful, and I think that's a big reason why the Avs haven't been as impressive as they probably should be so far. I think he'll eventually turn the page as he hopefully gets healthier, but it's not looking good whatsoever for his Norris Trophy hopes. Now we're going to move on to the Dallas Stars, my favorite team in the NHL. And I just got to say this right now. I'm just going to put it out there. Radulov, Benn, and Seguin have 2 points combined in 4 games played. I don't know what the Dallas Stars have done to them. I don't know what has happened, but I had a lot of hope going into this year that Radulov and Seguin being fully healthy would boost the Stars scoring. In fact, the Stars have scored less goals than last year, which is feeling impossible right now, but they have found a way. And with how bad Seguin, Benn, and Radulov have been, those guys need to step up if the Stars want to see any regular season success. But now we're going to move on to the Minnesota Wild, a team that is always fun to watch, man, and it seems like they've turned a complete page around from a few years ago where Minnesota was one of the least watchable teams in the league. Now they are just so fun to watch these past couple of years, and I think a big reason for that is how good Joel Eriksson Ek has been for Minnesota. Eriksson Ek, in my opinion, might be the most underrated two-way C in the entire NHL. Now, he's only gotten 3 goals, 3 points in 4 games played, those 3 goals coming in that last game versus Winnipeg, but I think that game just showed how versatile and flexible Eriksson Ek can be. When he needs to score a hat-trick, he will score a hat-trick, man, but the defensive impacts, the overall face-off ability, the maturity at such a young age is impeccable, and he's looking like the absolute top 6 center that Minnesota has needed for a long time. Alongside Marco Rossi, it's going to be a fun group of Minnesota to watch center-wise over the next few seasons. Now we're going to go on to the Nashville Predators, and I just got to say this for my takeaway. They might be the most average team in the NHL right now. I think 3 of their 4 games have been a 1-goal game. They've been close in them, and they've been competitive, which is great to see from this Preds team. I still don't see a playoff team here, though they could have some spoiler games at the end of the season if they are lucky. Now we're going to move on to another team here, and next up, I'm going to go on to the St. Louis Blues, a team that's had a fantastic run so far, 3-0-0. Not really too surprising for me. I saw the Blues having a pretty good season, but I think a big reason for the success so far has been Jordan Kyrou, who I'm pretty sure has like 7 points in 3 games played. He has been impeccable, and actually has 2 goals, 5 assists for 7 points in 3 games played. He has been amazing, though. I've always loved Jordan Kyrou, even going back to when he before was in the NHL, and now when he's fully established, getting that big-time role on the offense on St. Louis, he's been thriving, and I love to see it from such a great, young, talented kid. But now we're going to start out in the Pacific Division, and I gotta say, I have some big hot takes for this division, just to give some spoilers out there. But we're going to start out with the Anaheim Ducks and my overreactions for them. They've had a pretty solid season so far, and a big reason for that comes in the defense and comes with Kevin Shattenkirk, who might be back to his glory days as an offensive defenseman. In 5 games played, he has 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 points. It's been so huge for that Ducks offense, jumping into plays quite often and being an offensive defenseman that we know and love. And that is great news for the Ducks if that's able to continue. Now we're going to move on to the Calgary Flames, who've had their fair share of craziness go on this year. But the craziest thing, in my opinion, is just how elite Erik Gudbranson has been. I know what I'm saying, okay? I'm not lying. Watch a Flames game and come back to me and tell me how good Gudbranson has been, because he has been elite for them. He has 2 assists in 3 games played, got 2 assists in that Red Wings game, but every single game, he has been their best defenseman. And that's not hyperbole. He has been amazing in terms of puck protection, in terms of play driving. He's been great offensively. He's had great moments, and if that continues, the Flames defense is looking a lot better. If you can get a great season out of Erik Gudbranson, you take that every single day of the week. But now going to another older defenseman that I did not think could do what he's doing right now, and we're going to move on to the Edmonton Oilers and Duncan Keith. Now, I don't want to say that Duncan Keith has been a superstar so far, but he's done everything he's needed to do in Edmonton and more, man. And I would gladly be wrong if the Duncan Keith trade actually works out for Edmonton. So far, that's definitely been the case. Now, going back to that trade, in my opinion, if Duncan Keith was just a replacement level player, it could be a pretty big win for the Oilers. Even though that contract is huge, Duncan Keith is still a great player to have in the locker room and a great influence with the Stanley Cup wins and the playoff success. That's obviously there, but Duncan Keith has actually been really, really decent. He hasn't been too noticeable, which I think is exactly what he should be in that role. He shouldn't be too noticeable when he is. Over the last couple of years in Chicago, it hasn't worked too well, but he's been a very solid player. Even though he's gotten 0 points so far, he hasn't really been too noticeable, but he's making the right plays. He's influencing that team a lot, and come playoff time, his value is going to truly show. Now we're going to move on to another team here, and I'm going to move on to the LA Kings, a team that's had Anze Kopitar and Drew Doughty put up a ton of points so far, but I want to say that I think Phil Deneau is really a big reason why we've seen Kopitar start off the season well. Now, Kopitar usually starts off seasons pretty fantastically, but this feels a little bit different. Kopitar is truly dominating, and I think a big reason for that is having Phil Deneau behind him as a center, having those defensive responsibilities, taking those big face-offs, and putting some of the pressure away from Kopitar. I think that's a huge signing for the Kings. It's worked out pretty well so far, and it's worked out in Kopitar's play. But now we're going to move on to the San Jose Sharks, a team that has started off fantastic. I'm pretty sure they're 3-0-0 right now, and I absolutely love to see San Jose getting back to potentially playoff form, especially with how bad that Pacific Division is. They might be the most underrated team in the NHL right now. We've seen Erik Karlsson and Brent Burns as well having fantastic seasons, but especially Erik Karlsson truly getting back to a better level and looking a lot healthier too. We're seeing the goaltending do fantastic things. Adin Hill and James Reimer have been great for San Jose. I think San Jose might be the most underrated team in the NHL right now, as well as me. I didn't have them in the playoffs whatsoever, but it feels like Vander Kane was that bad of an influence that they're now turning the page, and man, that's great for that locker room and great for that franchise. Now we're going to move on to the Seattle Kraken, though I realized I should have had the Kraken first, not San Jose, but you know, we're going to go with it. My big takeaway for Seattle so far is just how good Brandon Tanev has been, man. Even when he's not scoring, by the way, has 3 goals in 5 games played, Brandon Tanev is just a great influence, a great force, and is one of the most fun players in the entire NHL, man. I mean, obviously with his headshots, that's true, but going to his play and going to his energy on the ice, the man just loves playing hockey, and you can tell he loves being a Seattle Kraken. That is great news and a great leader to have for that Seattle team, honestly. Now I'm going to go on to the next team here, though, in the Pacific Division, and next up, we're going to go on to the Vancouver Canucks, who've had their fair share of great play so far, but to me, Connor Garland is one of the biggest takeaways, who I thought was going to have a great impact, but he's been even better in terms of the little things, too, in terms of the aggressiveness, in terms of terms of the spunk, the fighting, it feels like Connor Garland is exactly what the Canucks needed on that forward group. Next up, I'm going to go on to the Vegas Golden Knights, another team that's been relatively disappointing this year. Now, to me, it really comes down to both. I mean, the offense, defense, and goaltending, it's all been relatively disappointing, but the defense has been excruciatingly bad. Guys like Pietrangelo and Shea Theodore have been awful defensively to start of the seasons, and especially with guys like Mark Stone and Patrick being injured for the next few weeks, having those guys out and the defense playing badly and Robin Lehner not being great so far is really bad news for Vegas, especially in the next few months. But next up, we're going to move on to the Atlantic Division, the final division to cover in today's overreaction video. And we're going to start out with the Boston Bruins, a team that's pretty hard to overreact to since they've only played 2 games so far. But I gotta say it, man, Brad Marchand continues to get disrespected, and he continues to be maybe the most underrated top-tier winger in the entire NHL. Now, not the most underrated, because I think that goes to guys like Mangiapane and the Flames, but I do think Marchand, in terms of the top tier, the top 5, top 10, goes pretty underrated in terms of how good he has been. I mean, 3 goals in 2 games played, not too surprising with just how good offensively he's been over the past couple of years, but he continues to be on that elite level and continues to be one of the best wingers in the entire NHL. Now moving on to the Buffalo Sabres, who started their season off 3-0-0, and I gotta say, Don Granato is an absolute king. He had a great influence on the second half of Buffalo's season last year, had a great influence on guys like Rasmus Dahlin and Yoga Harju, and players like Casey Mittelstadt especially, and I thought some of that would transition onto this year. Now, not this much, but we've seen the Sabres have big steps forward when it comes to their defense. The goaltending and Craig Anderson's been pretty solid, and the forward group, guys like Tage Thompson, are truly becoming the prospects and the players that they were meant to be. That's what Dan Granato has done so far for the system, and that's what he's done so far for Buffalo, turning them into a team that can actually win games, which is a breath of fresh air. But let's move on to some more Atlantic teams. Let's move on to the Detroit Red Wings, a team that, in terms of my overreactions, might just have 2 guys sharing the Calder Trophy by the end of the season. Both Moritz Seider and Lucas Raymond have been exceptional, fantastic players so far, and I'm not really surprised with Moritz Seider. I predicted him to win the Calder Trophy before the season. He's been easily the best Red Wings defenseman, though, and Lucas Raymond has been such a big part of the Red Wings team, play driving at an exceptional rate, even strength-wise, and just looking right at home on that top 9. He has been brilliant, though, and I see that also continuing for Detroit. Now going on to the Florida Panthers, and I really have 2 overreactions for them. First off, Sergei Bobrovsky is officially back, boys. So far in the games he's played 3 so far. He has a .944 save percentage. Absolutely unreal. He has been brilliant, and also Anton Lundell, who is leading the rookies in points, has been terrific in faceoffs in terms of defensive play and IQ, looking fantastic along guys like Sam Reinhart and looking right at home on that Florida team. We always knew that Anton Lundell was going to be elite. We called that way before his draft even happened, but especially in Florida, the man is absolutely thriving. But next up, we're going to make this one short and simple for the Montreal Canadiens, because that's what their season has been. They've been short and simply absolutely atrocious. And yeah, they are dealing with some injuries, and not having Carey Price is not great. But he's never been, in the past couple of years at least, never been a fantastic regular season goalie, really since 2015, 2016, or 2017. This is a guy that isn't truly needed for the regular season, and yet the Habs have looked about as awful as they ever have. This is actually the worst start, 0-5-0, for any team that just came off of a Stanley Cup final in NHL history. I think is tied for it or something. They have been legendarily bad, and I really don't see that continuing, but I don't see them being a great team either. Kind of placing in that middle range and just being an average team that I don't think is going to end up with Shane Wright, because the hockey gods don't love us, man. I'm just expecting it out at this point. And now we're going to move on to a team that I think has been also pretty interesting this season, but has actually had some pretty decent play in the Ottawa Senators. Now, they've been kind of in the territory that I thought they would be, a decent team that can play spoiler a few times, and they're 2-2 so far to start the season. Pretty good getting an assist in his first game is also good to see, but this is just a solid team so far. But one of the biggest things I think that has come from Ottawa so far has been Anton Forsberg's play. And yeah, he's only played 2 games, but he's been spectacular with a .935 save percentage and a plus 2.85 goals above expected, which is 5th right now in the NHL, or actually 6th right now in the NHL. He's been wonderful, and if that continues, the Sens will have some great goaltending goaltending going forward, but he's found a home really in Ottawa, and that's great to see. Next up, I'm going to go to a team that has also been a little bit disappointing so far in the Tampa Bay Lightning, a team that's been okay, but still needs some progress if they want to be in that top 3, I think, in the Atlantic. Now, one of the big things that has come from that is that obviously Nikita Kucherov went on LTIR. I was going to say this right now as an overreaction. There's still no way they're going to be able to get Jack Eichel. It's just not happening. Even though they do have some big cap space, they really have nothing to trade besides first-round picks, and I think Buffalo would want some prospects, which Tampa doesn't really have at the moment. But now going on to the last team in the NHL to overreact to, and we're going to move on to the Toronto Maple Leafs, a team that has been okay so far, but it hasn't really been amazing. I could go out and say that Mitch Marner's not worth his contract, but we already know that already. Let's be real here. My big overreaction is that instead of Morgan Rielly, the Leafs' biggest priority should be signing Jack Campbell. Now, signing Morgan Rielly should also be a priority, but Jack Campbell has been terrific so far for the Leafs, even though, again, it has been a shorter sample size. He's played in most of their games, I think maybe all of their games so far, and has pretty much been fantastic in every single one, saving the day multiple times for this Leafs team that has had some inconsistencies so far. But Jack Campbell has been so good as a Leaf regular season-wise. Even the playoffs, he was great against the Habs last year, and was one of the Leafs' main strength, if not their main strength, that goaltending coming through. I think Jack Campbell needs to be signed longer term. He is the starter in Toronto, and proves it time and time again. Especially with how badly Peter Mrazek's played, Jack Campbell should be priority number 1. But that'll be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy these overreactions, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Make sure you comment down below what you agree and disagree with my overreactions, and what are your overreactions for your favorite NHL team and the rest of the NHL as well. Let me know your thoughts. Of course, make sure you share this video with your friends, any hockey fans you guys know online, wherever it may be. I'm about to sneeze, so I'm going to get this done. Make sure you share this video right here. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.